It's a great pumpkin recipe exchange from the Cozy Cottage Homestead. Today we're going to be making pumpkin spice bread with a very unique type of icing. You'll have to watch to the end and I'll tell you how I made it. Welcome back to the Cozy Cottage Homestead. Today we're going to do It's a Great Pumpkin Recipe Exchange. This is a very simple, very easy, pretty frugal recipe. Let me grab my apron and we will get right to it. So I'm going to read the ingredients first. 1 cup of sugar, 2 eggs slightly beaten, 1/2 cup of oil, 1 cup of pumpkin, 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/4 a teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, I said that, 1/2 teaspoon of cloves, 1/2 of nutmeg, 1/2 of allspice, 1/3 cup of water, and about 1/2 cup of walnuts and raisins, or you could do raisins, walnuts, and chocolate chips. Today I'm going to do raisins and walnuts. And that's really it. Very simple, very easy. So first thing we're going to do is mix our first ingredients, which is our sugar, eggs, oil, and the pumpkin in a bowl. Have our sugar, 1 cup. Not going to zoom y'all in. It's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy. Slightly or lightly beaten eggs. This was 2 large fresh yard eggs. We have 1/2 cup of oil. And 1 cup of pumpkin. If it's a little less than 1 cup, that's fine. You know, if you're using canned pumpkin, it used to be 16 ounces. But if you use a little bit less than a cup, you could easily make 2 loaves of bread and very easily just double this recipe. Or even save the pumpkin. The other half that you don't use, save it. And then you can use it for another batch of bread or for another pumpkin recipe. So we're going to go ahead and mix this up really good. And it's easy enough that you can just mix it with a hand mixer or you can do it with a blender. I'm just going to go ahead and do it with the little one. Hand mixer here. It looks really pretty. Okay, now we're going to mix our dry ingredients in the order given. So, the next thing we're going to add is our flour. This is 2 cups of flour. I'm going to add a little bit, about half of it, and go ahead and stir it. Just going to make it easier to mix it all up later. Okay, going to add the rest of it. It's going to get a little messy, so you might want to use a little bit bigger bowl than what you think you need, just so you can mix it up really good without worrying about making too much of a mess. Okay, get this out of our way. We're going to add 1/3 cup of water. That's going to make it a lot easier to stir. And now we have our spices, and that was 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder. Ready? now we have our spices. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/2 teaspoon of clove, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. And we're going to go ahead and get that in there. Now we're going to get a workout. Mixing all of this up. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Looks like it's all mixed. Let me grab one more spoon. Let's try a different one. And now we have, I just used 2 small boxes of raisins. So I'm not sure exactly what that equals. Maybe close to 1/4 of a cup or so of raisins. If you don't like raisins, don't put them. Use chocolate chips. That's good too. I tend to like to do the raisins in the fall. And then we're going to do about 1/2 cup of chopped nuts. And yes, I have my handy dandy little nut chopper. Might take me a second to get them chopped. Sometimes it gives me problems. But we're going to roll with it. And for those of you that don't know, this is a little nut chopper. Antique. Works great most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't catch, but it works. I tend to like buy the nuts that are whole or halved. They just, to me, seem to be fresher that way. And then I'll just chop them myself with my little handy dandy chopper here. One more little piece in there. And if you don't have a nut chopper, if you use walnuts, I mean, technically, they break up small enough to just kind of break them with your fingers. Just twist it and turn it and break it. I do that sometimes as well. So you don't have to have a nut chopper. Or you can just buy chopped walnuts. And that doesn't look but about 1/4 of a cup, so I got just a few more to go. Ooh, Lordy mercy. Hands, see? Y'all starting to see it. Them hands don't always work right. Alright, get that out the way. Got just a little bit more to go. Okay, now we good on that. Let me stick this out the way. I don't want to bump it. Go ahead and get this out of here as well, because I'm going to use a stiff spoon for a stiff batter. And all I'm going to do is stir in the raisins and the walnuts. Scraping my sides, make sure I got everything off the bottom and everything is mixed up good. And you're going to bake this at 350 for an hour. Make sure that's right. 350 for 1 hour. 1 loved pan, oiled or sprayed with hand spray, something like that, so that it doesn't stick. This is a very thick batter, very heavy. Very simple, very easy, inexpensive ingredients all the way around. Pretty good. And it just reminds me of an old-fashioned bread. Said it could be considered a cake, I guess. But you bake it as a loaf bread, or I guess we could just like a dessert bread. Now we're just going to tap it a couple times, shake it. It is thick. Tap it and shake it. Kind of smooth it out just a little bit. When it gets in the oven, sometimes it will smooth out, but it being a thick batter, if you don't flatten it out, it's going to be a little bumpy on top. Bumpy eats just as good, right? The 350 in the center of the oven. Set my timer for 1 hour. actually for 60 minutes. And that's it. I'll be back in about an hour and I'll show y'all how this bread looks. Alright, we have our pumpkin spice bread out of the oven. I let it bake for the 1 hour at 350 and I let it cool off about 30 minutes. I don't have a precise recipe per se for my special glaze, but it is made with molasses, butter, and a little bit of powdered sugar. You could also make like a maple butter icing, something along those lines. But I do not have an exact recipe, but this bread is actually excellent without anything added. But when you add that glaze of the molasses on top, oh my, it is so delicious. So all I'm going to do is drizzle some on top. And I am not the best at this part, y'all. So, pumpkin spice and everything smells so nice. If anyone would like to join in on this little, I guess we'll call it a collaboration. Last year was a collaboration, had a great success with it. Just tag me in the description and I'll be glad to add you to the playlist. I'll be adding it to the playlist from last year. I'm going to go ahead and cut a slice so y'all can see how it looks. Now this is right before supper time, so I'm not going to be tasting it, but I know it is absolutely delicious. One of our favorites. Just want y'all to be able to see the texture of it. It is so good. And of course, if you have some leftover not maple, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Y'all know it. The molasses butter icing. You could drizzle you just a little bit on top. And I'll go ahead and do that just because I want y'all to see how delicious it looks. And I don't have an exact recipe. I haven't gotten that down to a science yet. So I'll work on that, see if I can get a recipe together. It smells just as good as it looks, y'all. It is one delicious, sweet, light dessert bread. And that's all for today. Thanks for joining. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. Welcome to all of my subscribers. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Hope to get out some more content really soon and get back with it. So farewell, homestead family, friends, and neighbors from the Cozy Cottage.